Welcome to coursework lesson 4. In this lesson, I'll give you some final tips about how to improve the layout and colours of your graphical user interface and to add images if you want to. So in this lesson, I'm briefly going to talk about how we can refer to colours in our Python commands, how we can create a basic layout that meets our needs, or a grid layout which gives us a bit of extra control, how to incorporate images and drawings into our interface, and the board layout, which might be useful for some of your ideas. So first of all, I want to talk about colours. There are 3 different ways to set the colour of a widget. In these examples, I have invented a widget called Start, could be any kind of widget, and the attribute .bg means the background colour of the widget, but obviously anything that we can set colour of, we can use this method. I can just use words to set the colour of an object: yellow, red, light blue, grey, and so on. Or I can give the RGB values. That is 3 numbers that say the amount of red, the amount of green, and the amount of blue in the colour. I can give those as decimal numbers in brackets or as hexadecimal numbers inside quote marks with a hashtag. If you're not clear about that, just stick to colours. But if you want to get the HTML colour codes in terms of RGB values, then you can follow that link that I've just shown on the screen. If in doubt, just stick to the words that you've used up to now. Now let's review the basic ways that we can improve the layout of our GUI. We add widgets in the order that we want them to appear on the screen, and they'll just pile up from the top down in the order that we've given our code. But I've suggested that we can space them out more by adding empty text labels with no text in them, and that will just force the widgets apart, and it just makes the layout look a little bit better. They're not all squashed up together. So here's an example that I've created using that very basic layout, and I think it looks fine. I'll show you the grid layout next, but if you're not keen, just stick to a basic layout like that. If you're interested, you can look further at chapters of the GUI 0 book. Chapters 2, 3 and 5 will all show you examples of layout and colour. Now let's see the slightly more complicated grid layout system. If you want to use grid layout, you must set the attribute of the main window layout equals grid. If you do that, then you will use the grid layout system. If you don't want to use the grid layout system, don't include that text in your main window definition. And then if you've done that, you can set the position of each one of your widgets using a grid coordinate system. So I've set the 3 widgets in this is a different example from the one I've shown you before, but I've set the 3 widgets to position 0, 0, 1, 0 and 1, 3. The first number is the column of the grid, and the second number is the row of the grid. You won't see the grids on the screen. It's just an imaginary positioning system, and the grid columns and rows will get bigger and littler as you add items. The grid is stretchy. The columns and the rows will grow and shrink in size. So if you put a large button into position 1, 3, that's column 1, row 3, then column 1 will be wide. But if there's nothing at all in a column yet, then the column will shrink down to nothing. Takes a bit of getting used to, but it means that you can add stuff and the grid will get bigger and littler as you add and take away widgets. So you can structure your GUI with greater precision by positioning all the widgets where you want them to go in the 2D grid. Remember, you give the column number first, then the row number, and like with everything else in Python, the first is 0 and then the next one is 1. To give even more precision, you can create a box inside the window. It will be invisible, but then you can position everything inside the box. So here I wanted to create a calculator, so I created a box called keyboard, which is a box inside the main window with the grid layout, and then I could position all the buttons of my keyboard inside the box. So it looks like this. So here's the box, and you can see all the buttons of my calculator are positioned within the box, and it gives me greater control over the layout. If you're interested in this, chapters 4 and 6 of the book, the GUI 0 guidebook, will tell you more about using these kind of layouts, and I've included my calculator. If you're my student, you can download it off the Moodle and have a look at my code. Not much more to go now, but you may want to insert images into your interface, so I'll just show you how to do that. There's a widget called Picture, and you can just include it like you can include all the other widgets. You can position it where you want it to go on the grid. So here's an image. I've called the widget My Image. It's the picture type of image. It goes in the main window in grid position 1, 4, and then I've included the command image equals test.gif, and that means it will take that image and display it in the window. Make sure that the image you want to use is GIF format, because that's the kind that it likes, and make sure that the file is in the same folder as your Python program, and then it will just appear on the screen. So any image you want, you can display in your window. This is a slightly more complicated one, and I haven't got time to go into it now, but there's also a widget called the drawing widget, and that will create like an empty drawing screen, like the Paint program on the screen inside your window. And you can draw images in it, or you can position text and images in it. It's quite a powerful widget. I haven't got time to go into it now, but you can find out more in the book. So if you look at chapters 9, 10 and 11 of the book, you'll find out a lot more about including images and moving images and create a Paint app, all kinds of interesting stuff that you can do. And the very final section that I'm going to show you is how to include a board, like a chessboard or a game board, on your screen. The widget, this is the last widget I'm going to talk about, is called the waffle widget, and we just position it on the board, in the window, and it'll look something like this. That's the basic one before I've set any parameters. It's just a 3x3, call it a waffle. But once I've added the waffle to my window, I can start to change the size, colour, and change the shape so it includes circles as well as squares, and I could start to build a game on the screen. That might be useful to you. So if you're interested in this, you can read chapters 7 or 8 of the GUI Zero book. And I've included an example. If you're my student on the Moodle, I created the game Connect 4 using the waffle widget. So you can have a look at that. So in this lesson, I've talked about how you can use the basic layout to create a nice looking interface. If you want greater control, you can choose the grid layout option. You can display images on the screen, and the waffle board gives you an interesting kind of game interface if that's what you want. So you have to think about what widgets might be helpful to create the interface for your program. You can investigate more on the website for GUI Zero. You can read the PDF guide, and you can copy the book examples, obviously tailoring it to your own purposes. Okay, so this is the last of the 4 lessons. I hope you've got all the skills you need now to design a GUI interface for your coursework. Make it and add functionality so you've got a complete working program. Come and see me if you've got any questions, if you're my student, that is, and I'll see you in class. Bye for now.